Hello friends, welcome back to my brand new channel SPS Tech, and today we are going to learn about the singleton pattern. So as you must be aware, the singleton pattern is a kind of pattern that allows one object per class. So one object per class. Okay, so we will see in this video how is singleton pattern implemented, and I just want to touch upon the basic use. Where do we use singleton pattern? So singleton pattern is used in those places where you want some kind of instance behavior, but you don't want to duplicate the creation of instance. So you want to enforce only one instance should be present, and through that instance of the class you can achieve the instance behavior, maybe maintaining some state. For example, I think java.runtime, the most famous library in Java operating system, is an implementation of the singleton class. So basically, whenever you do runtime.get runtime, it returns you a singleton object of the runtime class, and that singleton object has all the state maintained in the runtime object which it has returned. So again, touching upon that, singleton method is an implementation to achieve one object per class. So now let's see how is the singleton pattern implemented. So as you can see in this code that we have named our class as my singleton class. Okay, and it's you must be aware it's a basic rule in Java to keep the file name and class name same. So this file name is also my singleton.java, and the class name is also singleton. So you must be aware it's a public class. Why have we kept it public? Because we want it to be accessible anywhere in the Java environment so that we can, use the singleton behavior everywhere. Now, one of the key concepts while implementing the singleton class is we create a reference of a class in the class itself. So since our class is my singleton, here we have created a my singleton object in our class itself. And we have named it reference, and it's private. So we don't want to allow any direct access to this object. And we have also created it static. Why have we created static? Is because below we have a static method through which we will supply this reference to the callers whoever requires this object. Through the static method we will send this object out. And since this method is a static method, get instance, that is why we need to create this reference as a static property, because then it will be able to be accessed in the static method and maybe modified as well. Okay, so this is the first concept, having a reference of the class in the class itself. The important point in implementing the singleton pattern is keep making the constructor private. So you can see this is a constructor has the same name as the class name, so we have made it private. Why we have made it private? Because we don't want anyone else to create objects of our class. So if we make the constructor private, no one can call the constructor, so no one can create objects of this class. So this is the second important concept while implementing singleton. And when I say no one, it means the calling code. Okay. Now coming to the third and the most important concept in the singleton class, which is the get instance method. This is where all the implementation magic happens for the singleton pattern. So as mentioned you earlier, it returns of the types my singleton, and what it does is simply it checks whether the reference is null or not. We'll ignore these two lines for a moment. We'll touch them a bit later. So first of all, it checks whether the reference is null or not. If the reference is null, it simply creates a new my singleton object, and it assigns that object to the reference property. And then what happens is the reference gets returned. So when the first time this method is called, Obviously the reference is null, so we create a new object, my singleton, we assign it to the reference, and we then return it. Subsequent times when this reference is called, since the reference property is already set to an object, this condition is false, we directly come to this line and we return the already created my singleton object which was assigned to this reference property. Now coming to a very important concept which is called double check locking. Double check locking. So as the name suggests, something we are doing double. We are doing some kind of double checking to extra surety. But why do we require double check locking? Why do we require double check locking? In order to understand that, there is a scenario I want our users to understand. Suppose at this line, through two threads T1 and T2 reach simultaneously. Now, you must be aware that Java is a language which allows multi-threading or parallel processing of code. So it is highly likely that if two callers called this method at the same time, both the threads reach at this condition at the same time. What will happen then? Both of these threads will evaluate this condition, reference equal to null or not, and what they will find, it will find that this condition is true, reference is null, since both of them are calling it for the first time, and both will get entry into this if block, and there could be a chance that both of them create two objects. Two objects. So in that case, uh, the first thread will create an object, it will assign it to the my reference property and return it. But second time, the second thread will also create a reference, a my singleton object. It will assign it back to reference and return it. How the reference will be having the object which was created second time, but this has kind of break in our requirement. It has created two objects on the heap. It is not just the caller receiving an object, it is also about not allowing at all another object to be created at a heap. So in order to achieve it, what we do is in these two lines we have implemented double check locking. How and As you must be aware, in order to control problems occurring from multi-threading, we generally use a synchronized keyword. Okay, synchronized keyword allows access to the thread which is owning the object's lock, which is mentioned in the brackets. So here what we have done in these two lines, we have called the synchronized keyword. It will only allow one thread. It will first of all, whenever any of the threads you want to reach this line, it will check. It will ask the calling thread to acquire a lock of the my singleton node class. So if T1 acquires the lock of my singleton class, T2 will have to wait. It will not be able to acquire the lock. Only one thread can acquire a lock of object. So T1 gets the entry into this if block that is mentioned here. It again checks whether the reference is null or not. If it is null, it creates a singleton object, assigns it back. Basically, this is where we use this word double check. Double check is here and locking is here. So it will recheck, assign the object and go away. Two threads will not be able to pass this gate at one time. After that, when T2 comes into the loop, when T1 has executed, it will release the lock of the singleton object here at this bracket. And then what would happen is T2 will come and acquire the lock. When T2 acquires the lock, it will check reference is equal to null or not. But since T1 has already created an object and assigned to reference, this condition will be false. It will get out of the if block, it will release the lock, and it will return the reference which was already created. And why we chose to synchronize the dot class object is because our this property reference here is a static property. So we want to we want our threads to take lock of something which is also static in nature, or something which is also one object per class kind of thing in nature. And that is why we synchronize on the dot class object, which is also one object per this singleton class. So in this way, friends, we ensure extra security in double check locking. So T1 and T2, one at a time, both can't go together, and recheck or double check. So in this way, we achieve the singleton pattern. So I'll have this GitHub link for this program added in the description box. Do watch this video. If it is not clear in one time, I'd request to watch it 2 or 3 times. And if your doubts are still not clear, do reply in the comment section. I will be more than happy to re-explain or clarify your doubts. And I request all the viewers to please uh, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Your subscription, your likes, your shares give me the right motivation to create more helpful and meaningful content for you. Till then, thanks for watching, and it is SPS signing off. Goodbye.